Good morning. It's Dave at All Things Important Reviews. Please smash that like button. Please smash that subscribe button for more awesome watch content. I've got with me today the Dapix Hebros. Dapix are a micro brand from Romania, and this is their flagship diver. This is 41mm, 300-meter diver, automatic, ceramic bezel, sapphire crystal, fully stainless steel bracelet, an absolute beast. And I'm going to just tell you straight up now, I think this is one of the best divers you can buy under 500 quid, even under £1,000, that's got 300-meter rating from a micro brand. Okay. Now, because you can buy, you can buy fantastic divers from Citizen, from Hamilton, from Seiko. You can buy them, but the problem with a lot of them watches, in my opinion, from the main brands, other than people like Rolex, other that do a really classy diver, is that the problem is that with a lot of their divers, they look very tooly. Just look at the Citizen diver that I reviewed recently, that I reviewed last year. It has a super tooly look. Now, personally, I don't like the super tooly look of a diver, and I like it to be an all-round classy affair. And that's why when I saw this watch online of other YouTubers who've reviewed it before me, I just thought, wow, it looks fantastic, because it doesn't look like a straight Rolex Submariner homage. It's got other aspects to it. It's got a different bracelet. It's got a different thickness. It's got a different dial. It's got a different handset. It's got a different date complication. So I just felt it's not a Rolex Submariner homage. I mean, that's debatable. I don't think it is. It's got loads of unique character that I just fell in love with it when I saw it, and the specs are brilliant. The specs, as I've just mentioned, it's only 41mm. Now that's a great little sweet spot. Even though I could take up to 43, say, in this size of case, even though it is quite a chunky case, and perhaps at 14mm thick, it would be too big at 43mm. But it's got a great versatile size. It's got a nice movement. It's got a somewhat unusual bracelet. It's not your standard 3-link. It's got a different shape to it. It's got polishing in between the links to give extra pizzazz. It's got the sub. It looks like a GMT ring. Obviously, it's not a GMT complication, but it's got enough going for it that makes it unique, in my opinion, and that's why I really liked it. So let's start with the sizing. Well, the sizing is an interesting one because it is 14mm thick. Okay, which I thought at first when I got it out the bag, so to speak, I thought it would be too thick, but it's only 47.5 or 47.6, I think I measured, lug to lug, and end-link to end-link is only a tiny bit above that, like 48mm, if that, 48.5, something like that. Look, the end links do not significantly stick out from the lug to lug dimension, so it feels smaller than it probably actually is because of that end link to end link being small. On a lot of watches, the end link to end link will be above 50 and the lug to lug might be 48, and you might have like a 52, 54 or even 56 on some, which makes the watch feel bigger. But they've done this great. Look, it doesn't overhang the end link, so the size is excellent on the wrist. It really is, and it doesn't feel. There's two reasons why I think it doesn't feel too top heavy, with it being 14mm thick, because it is quite a chunky little beast. The one reason is because the lug to lug and the end link to end link is small. It is good. It's not above 50, and number two, I think it's to do with the articulation on this bracelet. I think that these links make it feel comfier than if they'd have just used a standard oyster style or standard 3-link bracelet. So because of those facts, the 14mm is fine at this size. The 41mm, as I've mentioned, is going to be a sweet spot for many people. For me, it's still a tiny bit too small. Well, not too small. I mean, I can wear this every day and get used to it, absolutely. But personally, I'd probably prefer it in 42 because of my wrist size. But for the majority of people that have smaller wrists, because I have slightly above average wrist, they're going to prefer it to be more like 40 or 41 because it's a more modern size. Let's talk about the dial, crystal and bezel. Well, the dial is something to behold because it is absolutely beautiful. They've not copied Rolex in terms of the handset. They've not used standard Mercedes hands. They've used these kind of arrows, which gives it a really classy, interesting look. I love the sub ring. I absolutely love that. It's not a GMT watch, but it is a beautiful, they've got to put a beautiful sub ring on there. Someone has told me in the previous comments that it's a Sky Dweller homage. And when you look at the Rolex Sky Dweller, I can see what they mean because it has a similar ring to that. But with the way they've done it on this watch, it works really good. The Dapix branding is adequate. You know, you've got the Hebros in italics, and then you've got the automatic professional diver 300 meter 1000 foot there with a date window, with also it also, you know, tells you what day it is, which I think is a nice touch. We don't get this a lot with divers. I think it is a really nice touch to make it a bit different, to put that, you know, where it says sat there. The loom is also excellent, by the way. They've loomed everything, the indices and the hands. The bezel, it is ceramic. It's got a nice crisp feel to it. I mean, it doesn't feel like your AliExpress ones, I'll put it that way. There is a little bit of back play, as you can see, but no biggie. It is a dive bezel, obviously. I'm glad they've put ceramic on it. Because without the ceramic, it wouldn't have that extra sheen. Can you see how you get the reflections on the ceramic that makes it look beautiful? You've got obviously the sapphire crystal. The sapphire crystal is practically flush. I mean, it's just a smidge proud of the bezel. I like that. I don't like domed crystals. I do not like them, and I do not like the crystals that are proud significantly of the bezel. I don't like it personally, so I'm glad they've kept it pretty flush. The crown is a screw down crown. The crown guards make it pretty difficult to use, actually. That's one tiny criticism of this crown, would be the crown guard mechanism. Just make it a little bit difficult, but maybe that's the way they've done it on purpose, because it's a dive watch, you know, to make it difficult to use so you don't accidentally use it underwater. But it's not super easy to turn there because of the way the crown guards are, but that's fine really. It's not too big of a deal. Now, case backs, they've not gone for an exhibition window, but they've gone for 300 meter water resist. And to get that hermetic seal, stainless steel is going to be stronger than polycarbonate or whatever it is they use, you know, crystal on the back. So I'm not going to give them any, you know, minor points because they've not put an exhibition window on the back. It's got some type of engravement. It's got the Diver 300, and it's got, is that a model number? Yeah, it is. Dapix 612, designed in Romania. There you go, Dapix Hebros. So quite a nice little case back actually. Pretty simple, but they've kept it simple to get that 300 meter seal. Now let's talk about my favourite aspect of watches, and that is the bracelet. The bracelet is absolutely beautiful. It's not your standard polished centres. They have added an extra touch in that they've kind of, the centre pieces, they've polished the outers of the top and bottom, if you will, of the centre pieces, which gives it a really nice but not overdone polished blingy look, if you will. It looks really classy. Look at the way the light shines off that. They've not gone for the full polished centres, which they could have done, which would have been an easy option. They've put it just on the inners, which I think is really nice. And the outside of the case is polished as well. And the outside of the bracelet, which is what I like, the links should be polished. They're not screw links, but they're just a pin. It does have the arrows, as you can see there. Super easy. You know, a lot of people say, oh, it needs to have screws. It doesn't need to have screws. I mean, yeah, you could make it even more secure. You could put a collar on it, on the pin. But you could put Loctite on them. If you got the size that you wanted, you could put a bit of Loctite when you put them in. No problem. I don't, though. I just keep them, because I go through watches pretty quick and fast and sell them on. I'm not going to sell this one on, though. At least not yet, because I enjoy it so much. And so it's not your standard. It's not your standard 3-link. As you can clearly see, it's got an unusual shape to it. As I said, it feels really comfortable, and they are pretty thick. They are pretty thick. Then they're over 3mm thick at the highest point, but they need to be to support this head. If they made them too thin, it would feel too jangly on the wrist, because the head is quite a fat head, 14mm. And the clasp is again a nice deployment clasp. You've got heavy duty swing arms. You've only got 3 micro adjusts, but they've kept the clasp nice and small, not too big. A lot of people complain about clasp being too big. Not that I do. I've complained about a few divers being too big that have a massive clasp like on that Citizen, which is just overkill because of that mechanism to have the micro adjust on the fly, which is totally pointless for non-divers in my opinion. They've kept it nice and sweet, nice and short. The shell is only pressed, but ultimately the swing arms are heavy duty. The mechanism feels really nice. Push buttons, deployant. It's fine. It's totally fine. There's no diver's extension, but I personally would never ever use it. I'll bang it on my wrist now. That is pretty sick. Does not feel too top heavy at all, which I was worried about when I first saw it. But I just love that dial. Now the thing is, in complete honesty, I only ordered the red one because I didn't have that many red watches, and they didn't have stock of the one that I wanted. I wanted the black and gold, and when they get stock of that watch, I will be getting that watch 100%, the black and gold one, because that is just absolutely drop dead gorgeous, that black and gold one. Now this, it's still gorgeous. It's not as gorgeous in my opinion because I'm not as big a fan of red as I am gold, but it still looks just stunning. And you know, there's not much I would change about this watch. If there was any criticisms of the watch, this is what it would be. But you can't quite criticize the price. The price is less. In a sale, it's less than 200 euros. So it's about 160 GBP, something like 150 GBP. It is an absolute bargain. I don't know any watches that have the spec of this. Now, obviously, I've not tested the water resistance. I don't have that capability. But providing that 300 meter, even if it was 200 meter, providing that is correct and it gives you that protection under the water, for those of us that really are going to go diving with it, which is pretty slim, because you still probably wouldn't buy a microband for a true dive watch. This is an item of jewellery ultimately. It's that's why people are buying these watches. It's to have something nice to look at on your wrist, and I think that this ticks a lot of boxes. If you're like me and your favourite dive watch is the Rolex Submariner, the two-tone blue gold bluesy and silver Rolex Submariner, you like a watch that's classy and it has the performance, and that's why I like this Dapix watch. It's got the unusual bracelet, which feels really nice and comfortable. There's nothing sharp on this bracelet. There's nothing sharp on the case edge. It's super. They've done a really good job with the ergonomics. It's got the lux in the dial. It's got the specs with the water resistance. It ticks a lot of boxes. It is actually the Seiko NH36A, which is minus 20 plus 40 a day nominal, but you'll probably get a bit better than that. Over time, it might go worse. Again, if this is a weekend watch or even your daily diver, you're buying these watches expecting that if it's an automatic, it's not going to be super accurate. I mean, you could give an argument, can they not put a Sleater or a PT 5000 or anything in it? Being the person that I am, who's not bothered about the movement on these cheaper automatics, it's not too big of a deal to me that they've only put an NH35 in it. My only criticism would be, number one, would be the thickness. I know a lot of people would probably prefer it a couple of mil or a millimetre thinner, closer to like 12.5, 13 mil. That would make it even more comfier. But it is completely comfortable as an all-day watch on my wrists with this bracelet on. So that would be one criticism. Could they make it a tiny bit thinner? But their argument would be that they've had to do it that thick, probably, I'm guessing, to get the 300 metre water resist. And the only other criticism would be, I found it a little bit difficult to use. It's a little bit more difficult because the way the crown guards are on this crown, to use the crown to get it super tight. But that's not a massive, criticism. They could, the clasp, you could put some more micro adjusts on there. I prefer 3, but they've clearly gone for a short clasp for maximum comfort. A lot of people don't like big clasps, and although I'm not one of them people who's too bothered about the clasp being bigger because I've got a big wrist, like the San Martin that I've just reviewed, that has a pretty big clasp. But you could argue, I think ideally you would have 4 minimum, but it's still a good little clasp. So overall, I think this is one of the best divers you are going to get below 500 quid, even below £1,000 from like a micro brand. I think it is absolutely, bang for buck. You can't beat the bang for buck for this. Now, the only trouble is, at the minute, they're not selling it's difficult to get in the United Kingdom. You can get it off, I think, Etsy and some eBay sellers, but you can't buy it direct from Dapix at the minute into the United Kingdom, and that's because of the Brexit thing, and it's made it more difficult to sell to the UK. But they've told me that they will be selling directly to the UK, ideally in autumn this year. If not, you're going to have to get it from third parties. So, but when they get the stock back in the colour, I'm going to be getting 100%. I don't know where I'm going to get it from, but I'm going to 100% get it in the black and gold. You can get it in blue. You can get it in like a teal colour. You get it in loads of different colours. I'll put a link down to the website. They've also got a couple of other nice watches. So the fact is, I'm really impressed with this model. It ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of people. I think you are going to be really impressed, and with the price being closer to like 160 GBP, I think that it's going to be really tough. If they had stock of this and they had access to the UK market, I think it would be selling off the shelf because the price is just brilliant. So cheers for checking out my review. It's been Dave. Have a great weekend.